What's my favorite movie? First off, I prefer the term film, and choosing just one would be like choosing between my children. But if I had to choose just a few, they'd probably be stuff you haven't even heard of anyway. Just a little bit more obscure than the mainstream stuff you're probably into. And even if I showed them to you, you probably wouldn't even understand them. You'd probably think they're too boring or overly complex for your little pea-sized brain. What about you? What's your favorite movie? Probably Infinity War or something.
That was my best impression of a film bro. If you somehow don't know what that means by now, it's basically just a stereotype of somebody, usually a guy, who acts intellectually superior about movies, meanwhile having a very elementary understanding of the subject and a very surface level taste, or at least that's what Urban Dictionary defines as a film bro. Their favorite movies include such underrated gems as The Dark Knight, Pulp Fiction, Inception, and Jurassic Park. They also love the MCU. And when I read that for the first time while doing research for this video, I found it kind of funny because all of those movies are badass. And that's what made me start to feel kind of weird about this whole thing, because yes, the stereotypical pretentious, what do you know about Martin Scorsese film bro does exist. There are people out there that are actually like that. But at the same time, I also feel like the internet has just made people a little bit too comfortable with mocking people for just enjoying things that are popular. I understand all of this is not that deep, but at the same time, I do think it's a good example of this culture on the internet that's just very gatekeepy and elitist. Every community says that they want new people to get into the thing that they all love, but the second that a new person enters the space and has beginner taste, bars, there's tons of people that dog on them for not being niche enough yet. And because of this, I feel like people are becoming super hyper aware of how their interests make them look to other people now. People are so terrified of being called whatever the buzzword of the week is now, that they start managing their personality and interest all around avoiding those labels. But that's a tangent for another time. I'm gonna get into that a little bit more later in this video. The main reason I wanted to make this video is because I personally feel like I'm the opposite of a film bro. I'm the one guy who has somehow never seen all the movies you're supposed to have seen. I feel like I somehow missed out on all the required reading that everyone else had. I constantly find myself in those awkward conversations that are like,
bro, how have you never seen The Godfather before? How is that physically possible? You've gone through your whole life without seeing one of the best movies of all time? Everybody, come look at this guy. He's never seen this movie before. Let's talk about it for the next 10 minutes.
I just kind of have to stand there awkwardly and be like, I don't know how I've never seen that movie before. I decided to fix all of that by watching all of the film bro critically acclaimed super popular movies and figuring out once and for all, do they live up to the hype or nah? So I made a list of all the movies that I'm going to watch in this video on Letterboxd. Follow me on Letterboxd, by the way. And I ranked them according to how I think I'm going to rank them at the end of this video, if that makes any sense. It says over here, I've watched 4 out of these 8 movies. But technically I've watched 3 out of these 7 movies because I have Interstellar at the #1 spot. As film bro as it sounds, Interstellar is genuinely one of my favorite movies of all time. Bro's only seen 10 movies. Yeah. And what about it? That's the whole point of this video. I'm trying to watch more movies. But genuinely, that movie is one of my favorites of all time. So it's gonna be my benchmark. If a movie comes close to Interstellar, that's gonna be big points for it. If it somehow exceeds Interstellar, that's huge props. I don't think any of these movies will. I personally don't think this ranking is gonna be anywhere close to how I'm gonna actually rank them at the end of this. I feel like some of these are gonna shock me, whether that be good or bad. But you're gonna have to stick around to find out. Let's see what happens. Maybe by the end of this video, I'll become an absolute insufferable, pretentious film bro, cinephile. Hopefully not. Hopefully I retain some of my whimsy. I hope I still enjoy watching movies after this and don't ruin it for myself. The first movie that I'm going to watch for this is The Godfather. Now this is like the quintessential, if you ask a million people what's the best movie of all time, most of them would say The Godfather. This just seems to be like the go-to answer for the best movie ever made, or maybe it's part 2. I'm not sure which one's considered better. I'm pretty sure it's part 2. But I've also heard a lot of people say that this is really overrated and boring. I really don't know anything else about it besides a mob boss Italian movie. It's got the famous quotes like, "You come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding," and something about an offer he can't refuse or something. I agree with Peter Griffin. It does in fact insist upon itself. I'm just kidding. I did like it quite a bit. I went into this kind of knowing that this wasn't going to be like my favorite movie ever, because I already kind of knew that it wasn't 100% my thing, but I also wanted to like it. I was also expecting this movie to just be like 3 hours of Italian men talking to each other, and it kind of was, but I didn't hate it. It actually was very engaging for most of it. A funny thing I noticed while watching this is that since I'm not really a classics guy, I haven't seen too many classic movies. A lot of my reference points for some of these pretty big actors are really funny. Like Robert Duvall, I feel like most people would see him as the guy from The Godfather. To me, he's just like the dad from Four Christmases, because that's what I know him from.
Look, I don't want to speak ill of your mother on Christmas, but she's nothing but a common street whore.
And then Diane Keaton, she's the mom from Father of the Bride. I feel like most people might recognize her from this movie. And then Al Pacino is the guy from the Dunkachino commercial, and Adam Sandler's Jack and Jill.
It's not Al anymore. It's Dunk.
Dunkachino?
Don't mind if I do.
Just kidding. I knew who Al Pacino was before going into this movie. Also, this is low-key a Christmas movie. I'm surprised I haven't heard more people debate over if this movie is a Christmas movie the same way people do with Die Hard. Maybe they do and I'm just oblivious, but I will say I did start to check out a little bit towards the halfway point. Not like fully bored or uninterested. I just started to feel the length of it. I paused and I was like, we're only halfway through. I wasn't super bored or like dreading it. It's just, it's very long. But by the end of the movie, I think the length is justified because it's such a slow burn. Like everything happens so naturally. Pretty much every scene has a purpose. Maybe on rewatch, I can notice more of those things. I was expecting there to be a lot more cats in this. There was a super cute kitten at the beginning. There's a cat on the poster, and those are the only cats you see in relation to this movie. So final thoughts, I think the world building was probably the most impressive thing. It sets up all of these characters very well in the first like 30 minutes, and that's very impressive just for like the amount of people on screen. And also the characters feel real. They feel human and there's depth to them. It's not just a bunch of mobster criminals shooting at each other like, you took my spaghetti, I blow your head off with a bazooka. But surprisingly, it wasn't the action or the explosion that made this movie fun or made it engaging. It was the characters and just kind of like seeing them change over time. Specifically, Michael starts out as being completely removed from the family. He's a war hero. He doesn't want to be a part of the crime. He rejects it. He sees himself as different. And then when he finally gets pulled into the criminal life, it's not because he wants power or money. It's because he wants to protect his father. So as the audience, you kind of understand where he's coming from. But then throughout the movie, his justification slowly starts to turn into his identity, and he does the criminal stuff not out of necessity, but more out of just because he's a part of it, and it's just like his life now. And he slowly becomes the very thing he didn't want to be at the beginning, which is exactly like his father. It's a full circle arc, and it doesn't all happen in this one dramatic, like, I'm evil now moment. It happens very slowly, and it's so subtle that you actually don't even really notice it. Here's my Letterboxd review. I gave it 3.5 stars. I feel like that's kind of controversial, but just hear me out. I understand why it's a classic. I definitely could see myself loving this more on rewatch and bumping up my rating just a little bit. Final question, does it live up to the hype? Yes, I think it does. Is it my favorite thing in the world? Not really. Am I super eager to watch it again? Also not really, but I gotta give it its flowers. It's a really good movie, especially for the time. I understand the impact it had. So
I don't know if you can tell by how long this video has taken to be released, but I kind of took a little bit of a hiatus from this video for multiple different reasons. But in an effort to not derail this video into an Isaac Yap session tangent, I just want to keep this part short and not over-explain because I tend to do that. I've just been kind of wrestling with the type of videos I want to make. I feel like I conjured up a pretty decent sized audience pretty quickly, and it kind of surprised me. And now I'm like scrambling around like, what type of videos should I be making? Videos I am making, I like them, but they don't really feel fulfilling to me, and I want to be doing something more creative. Should I even be making videos in the first place? Like, is this even worth it? So I don't know, a lot of thoughts and stuff. I'm probably going to be experimenting with different types of videos. That's not to say I'm not going to make more videos talking about music or movies. I still like doing this. I guess I just feel like I could be doing more. So I guess just fasten your seatbelt and get ready for a wild ride. Speaking of seatbelt, I don't know why I have mine on right now. That's coming off. I have a bad habit of not finishing things that I start. Not even necessarily because I get overwhelmed. I just feel like I'm probably ADHD. So I'll start something and I get distracted by something else that's shiny and I'm like, oh, what's that? I'm gonna go do that. It's a bad habit. So I'm gonna finish this video. And it's actually a perfect time to pick it back up because we're currently in the midst of the great blizzard of 26. Because of all the snow and ice, I've been stuck in the house, so I figured I might as well pick this video back up and start binging these movies. And the last 2 movies that I watched were Fight Club 2 days ago, and then I watched Taxi Driver last night. To my surprise, they are actually very similar movies in a lot of ways, although I have vastly different opinions on both of them. Fight Club, I loved it. But I also had seen it before, so I kind of already knew that. But I did like it a lot more than my first watch. And then Taxi Driver, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, I'm not gonna lie. I'm very confused as to why it's considered one of the best movies of all time. After doing some research on it, I read an article about it. I do have a little bit more of an understanding as to like its influence, but I don't understand why people consider it to be like one of the best movies ever made. But I'll get into that in a second. I'll just go over some of the similarities that I found. Both of these movies essentially have the same protagonist. They're both really lonely incel men that are kind of just stumbling around the city, suffering from insomnia. And both of them narrate their thoughts to the audience throughout the entire movie. So it is obvious that Taxi Driver probably inspired Fight Club in a lot of ways. That being said though, just because you did something first doesn't mean it's good. And that may sound really stupid, like maybe I am stupid, because how can I call something not good when it's so critically acclaimed and everyone seems to think it's good? So maybe I'm just missing something. I just feel like Fight Club did what Taxi Driver was trying to do 10 times better. That's not to say that they both have the same like message or theme necessarily, but I'm just going to talk about things I liked about Fight Club, and then I'll get into more of the reasons why I didn't really like Taxi Driver. That red jacket that Brad Pitt wears is probably the sickest thing I've ever seen. That's not a want, that's a need. About like 15 minutes into the movie, the narration style suddenly becomes like Ferris Bueller, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Malcolm in the Middle style, like Deadpool, like breaking the fourth wall. I never noticed that the first time I watched it. It does that for like 3 scenes, and then it just drops that narration style for the rest of the movie. Sorry, someone's headlights are in my face right now, that's why it looks like I'm ascending into heaven. I don't know, maybe this is better lighting. It's kind of blinding me though. Speaking of lighting, this movie has very dark and muted colors. It's very gritty. It feels like dirt underneath your fingernails. I do like the visual style of this movie. It fits what's happening very well. I feel like you kind of need to take a shower afterwards. You just feel gross. Also, the CGI in this movie is surprisingly really good, especially like those sequences of the apartment. I don't know what you would call those type of shots. I'll put examples of them on the screen. Then all the labels of the IKEA furniture and stuff like that. All of that stuff is very impressive and very ahead of its time. One of my favorite lines in this whole movie is when Tyler and the narrator are getting the fat to make the soap, and then they're selling the soap to like department stores and stuff. And then the narrator says,
"It was beautiful. We were selling rich women their own fat asses back to them."
That's definitely one of the best lines in the whole movie. It's just so good. I think my favorite scene in this whole movie is when Tyler Durden takes the narrator to that gas station, and then he pulls out that little Korean or Asian guy and then makes him drop to his knees with the gun to his head and is like,
"The question, Raymond, was what did you want to be? Answer it, Raymond. Feminine animals. I know where you live. If you're not on your way to becoming a veterinarian in 6 weeks, you will be dead."
That's probably a top 10 scene in any movie for me. And then the narrator asks Tyler, he's like, "Why did you do that?" And Tyler's like, "Tomorrow is gonna be the most alive he's ever been. His breakfast is gonna taste better than any meal we've ever had." I just love that scene so much. There's something about it. Also, if you don't know the twist for this movie, I haven't really given it away yet. Watching this movie not knowing the twist, I feel like it would be a lot better of a movie. First time I watched it, I did know the twist, but I kind of forgot about it. I knew it subconsciously from like memes and stuff. And then when it happened, I wasn't really surprised. It's more so like, oh yeah, I remember that that's part of this movie, that type of thing. So I was kind of surprised, but I kind of wish I didn't know. And then this time, it was very fun to notice all the things once you know the twist. The way they reveal it is really cool. They kind of let you know ahead of time, so you kind of figure it out before it actually is directly revealed to you. So it kind of makes you feel smart in that way. But yeah, this movie is really good. I think it deserves all the hype that it gets. I do think it gets misinterpreted a lot. A lot of people think it's like pro-masculinity when it's actually the opposite. But my brain kind of functions like a Cocomelon iPad kid. I don't really care too much about themes and like philosophy. That stuff is cool, but I'm more like, oh, that was a cool scene. Explosion. This movie's really good, dude. And the last scene with the Pixies song, Where's My Mind? That's so good. Perfect outro song.
Two bros chilling in the hot tub, 5 feet apart cause they're not
Leading into Taxi Driver, this came out a lot earlier than Fight Club. I think it's 76. Before I talk about why it's not necessarily my favorite, I just kind of want to go over some of the things that I did like. I like the I like the cinematography. That was definitely the best part for me. I liked the jazz. I liked all the colors and the lights. It was very like ethereal in the opening sequence. And then also the ending sequence is really cool too. And then there's some really cool camera moments throughout, camera tricks and stuff, and just cool shots. I'm trying to talk like a film buff, but I don't really know what I'm talking about. I also think Robert De Niro has a great performance. He's a great actor. He's pretty much good in everything he's in. Obviously, he's a lot younger in this, but he almost doesn't look like Robert De Niro. It looks like someone who would come in third place in a Robert De Niro lookalike contest. His character is pretty complex. He's not just like good or bad. It's more nuanced than that. Kind of goes up and down. At the start, you're kind of rooting for him, and then you're like, what the hell, dude? Then in the middle, he starts to act really weird, just very incel behavior. It's the type of riz that your grandpa tries to advertise to you.
Have you tried following her home yet, son? How about getting violent and forceful with her?
That's how I met your meemaw. But yeah, he starts to act real creepy. Also, during the midpoint of the movie is when it starts to get pretty boring for me, at least. I felt like I was just sitting there waiting on something to happen and nothing ever really happened. And then it just kind of switches plot points. It goes from the whole him trying to get the girl thing to him trying to free this child sex worker. I don't know. It's just really not my type of movie. And I'm struggling to understand why people love it so much, aside from the fact that it seems to be very influential for the rest of like film bro movies. I feel like a lot of film bro movies wouldn't exist, or at the very least would be vastly different if it wasn't for this movie existing. But that doesn't mean it's like a top 5 movie of all time just because it's the first to do something. And give it its flowers for being super influential without saying it's a flawless movie. I would like to be able to understand why it's so critically acclaimed. Try to explain it to me in the comments. At the end of the day, this wasn't really my thing.
Dr. Phil Sweaty Forehead compilation. Oh shoot, I was filming a video. This could be a cool setup, I guess. Maybe like put some visuals in the background from the movies I'm talking about. Look, a microphone's right here. Are you kidding me? That's crazy. I watched 2 movies recently, one of them being Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane Funniest Moments compilation with Subway Surfers in the background. Oh, they actually have that? That'll boost engagement. This is actually how I watched the movie, by the way. It was just too boring. So the first thought I had while watching this movie was old-timey movies are very nostalgic for me. Not because I was born in 1941. It just reminds me of like in middle school when we would have movie day or they would throw on a documentary and I would lay my head on the desk and nod off a few times and everything was just so peaceful. It was just a simpler time. I guess I should talk about the actual movie. There were surprisingly a lot of cool camera shots or camera tricks throughout the film, at least for 1941. It's not mind-blowing by any means, but for the time, it is mind-blowing, I guess you could say. And I did notice a lot of them after I watched it because I went and like watched a bunch of videos being like, why is this the best movie of all time? Because I felt like I missed something. And after doing my homework and watching a few YouTube videos, I do understand why this is such an important movie and why it's like transcended being a movie. Like you say, that album is the Citizen Kane of albums. But like, how many people do you know who have actually seen Citizen Kane that aren't like film students? Maybe I'm just stupid. Maybe everyone's seen this movie. I like the ending. It was a cool tie back to the beginning. For the time, that was probably a revolutionary way to end a movie. It's like mind blowing. Also, something I noticed, did they have do-rags in 1941? Because that Mr. Leland guy was straight drowning. Did you see his waves? Like, I've never seen a white guy with waves before, much less a white guy from 1941 with waves. Does he just naturally have waves? What are the physics of that? How is that scientifically possible? I wrote a decently sized Letterboxd review for it, and it kind of sums up my opinion on this movie, so I'll put it on screen somewhere. I really don't have anything else to say besides that. Get why it's so important. It's really boring. I'm just never gonna get the urge to rewatch this again. It's not like I'm gonna rewatch it and be like, whoa, I get it now. But let's just get into the next movie I watched, which is Pulp Fiction. But just like Citizen Kane, super influential, especially for the time. This was way later though, 1994. The best part about this movie is the dialogue. Not that they're saying like incredibly interesting things. It's just very natural and human and witty, and it just flows very nicely.
Loyal with cheese. Oh, loyal with cheese. What they call Big Mac. Well, we're Big Mac's a Big Mac, but they got Red Big Mac.
It's like the exact opposite of like Stranger Things dialogue, where it's just explaining the entire plot.
I heard Kate Bush. Is she one of your friends?
You could say that.
Kill Vecna. 1, 2, 3.
I did write notes down, so just whip those out real quick. Okay, I wrote like nothing down. I wrote iconic title card, which is true. This movie has probably one of the most iconic opening / title cards in any movie ever. And then I wrote down, Shorty thinks she's SpongeBob. I don't know the context behind that. Actually, I do. I remember what I was talking about when Mia did the don't be a square thing, where she made the square in midair, and you know how SpongeBob does that?
Talking about this or this. We're talking about this.
Those are the only two things I wrote down about this movie. So I guess I'll just freestyle. I feel like I'm giving a class presentation right now. I'm getting nervous. I'm getting a little nervy. I like this movie a lot more on rewatch. I forgot to say that to begin with. I've seen this movie before. This was not a first time watch. I did like it more on rewatch, not by like a crazy amount or anything, but I think because I was more aware of the whole storyline, the whole thing about them doing the story out of order was less jarring for me because I already knew the story, so I was able to fit all the pieces together from remembering what happened the first time. That was such a convoluted way of saying that. But I do think this movie is really good. I just think it's kind of an annoying thing to talk about because I feel like most people either overhype it into oblivion and act like it's the best thing to ever exist. It's the feat of cinema. Or there's the other side of people that just call it mid and hate on it for no reason, just to be a contrarian and seem different. And both sides are honestly pretty annoying. I personally just believe it's a very good, influential movie. I feel like this movie is like the Currents by Tame Impala of movies. In the same way that like indie boys are like, do you know Tame Impala's just one guy? In the same way there's guys like that, there's film bros that act like having a Pulp Fiction poster in their room and saying this is their favorite movie makes them super unique. I feel like people just got so tired of talking about this movie because of people like that. I feel like my Letterboxd review sums up my opinion on this movie way better than me sitting here trying to freestyle it. And I know this review might seem kind of hypocritical after I was very critical of Taxi Driver and also kind of critical on Citizen Kane because I rated that pretty low. But at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is having fun. As stupid as that sounds, and I did not have a lot of fun with Taxi Driver or Citizen Kane. They were pretty boring. They weren't the worst movies in the world. Like I said, I understand their importance. It's just like, I don't care. Oh, well, the reason why people love Pulp Fiction is because it was the first to do blah, 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 and it was super influential. So why aren't you holding it to the same standard? The answer to that rebuttal would just be, Pulp Fiction's fun to watch. Pulp Fiction? I prefer my fiction without the pulp. Am I right? Hold up. Stand-up comedian brick wall background. Pulp Fiction? I prefer my fiction without pulp, thank you. What's the deal with Pulp Fiction? I mean, come on! Why would you tell a story out of order? That's the whole point of a story. Beginning, end. Why would you have ending, beginning, middle, end, beginning? I mean, come on.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I accidentally took like a 2-month break from this video again. So I just would like to apologize for how long this video is taking to come out. I'm gonna be talking about 2 movies, that being The Wolf of Wall Street and the last movie that you can probably guess what it is. It's 3.5 hours long. And that's the reason why I was putting it off for so long, because I was just trying to find a time to watch it. It's a really long movie. But anyways, yeah. So, sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm really bad at talking to a camera, which is bad when you're trying to talk to a camera. I did watch this movie 2 months ago, so it's not really fresh on my mind. So I'm just gonna read straight off the notes that I wrote down when I watched it. First thing I said was, this is like American Psycho, but for finance bros who blow their paycheck on sports betting. Okay, yeah, I was kind of yapping in these notes. I'm just gonna kind of summarize this. I think it's undeniably a good movie. That sounds like I'm about to say it's bad. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. 8 out of 10, this is a really good movie. I think if I was rating it just on objectivity, it would probably be near perfect. I think in terms of filmmaking, the writing, the performances, that's probably the biggest thing. Specifically Leonardo DiCaprio's performance. I feel like it kind of carries. It's generational. But also other people like John Bernthal, Matthew McConaughey, who's in there for just a little bit, and then Jonah Hill, who plays a character you wouldn't really expect him to play, at least at this time when this movie was made. But when I rate stuff, I do a little mixture of objectively how good it is and how it personally resonates with me and how much I actually enjoy watching it. And that's why I docked a few points from this, because it is really vulgar for like 90% of the movie. There's a bunch of scenes that are just straight up, and it's also 3 hours long. So it's not really a movie, at least for me, that you can just throw on randomly with anybody. And I personally tend to favor those movies that you can watch with anybody over and over and over, not 3 hour long compilations. Just kidding. It's not all. There's just a lot of scenes that you wouldn't really want to watch with your parents. I understand the vulgarity and the length of the movie was intentional. Like, I understand that's part of it. It's supposed to be displaying how corrupt and crazy these people get over time, and you kind of need the length to justify that, and you need those absurd scenes to show how corrupt these people become. Like, I understand that's all intentional. It just docks some points for me. This movie has a ton of iconic scenes. Leonardo DiCaprio is insane in it. He's an incredible actor. I think my favorite two scenes were probably the one with Matthew McConaughey in the beginning, and then the Quaalude scene. Those are both iconic. I'm probably forgetting a bunch because it's been 2 months since I watched it. So let's get on to the last movie that I watched, which was The Godfather Part II. More like The Godfather Fart Poo. Just kidding. I actually like this movie quite a bit. Did I like it better than the first one? Because a lot of people seem to say this is like the best sequel of all time and also the best movie of all time. The same way they say the first Godfather is the best movie of all time. Make up your mind, film bros. What the heck? I didn't think it was better than the first one, but it's not much worse than the first one. That's just because this one kind of drags actually, it drags a lot, if I'm being honest. For me, at least. It's 3.5 hours long. I kind of got confused with some of the crime intricacies with all the business deals and stuff. Maybe I'm just stupid. Maybe I wasn't really paying attention enough. Maybe I just have the attention span of a squirrel. It just kind of dragged for me. I also just think the narrative of the first one was a lot more engaging. I liked watching Michael go from war hero to exactly who he didn't want to become. I liked that progression more than I liked watching Vito's background and then Michael's like continuation of being Godfather. There's still a lot of really cool character development in this one. There's a lot of like moments, but I just personally would rather watch the first one. I gave this 3.5 stars. Please don't crucify me. People act like 3.5 stars is a low rating. 3.5 stars is not a low rating. That's 7 out of 10. That's a good score. Why is the gap between 3.5 and 4 so huge? It's the freaking Grand Canyon. People act like 4 is like, oh, that's respectable, but then 3.5, no, that's absurd. I will say, I originally rated the first one 3.5, and then like a few days later, I was like, what am I doing? And I changed it to 4. Because I think these are the type of movies that the more you sit with them, the more you appreciate them. This one basically has the same kind of feel as the first one. There's a lot less shootings and explosions. I was talking about how the first one was like a character study almost, and it really went into detail with all the characters and showed their motivations and stuff. This one does that even more so. Anyways, I'm gonna try to stop talking like I actually know what I'm talking about. Character studies. Who do you think you are, dude? Let me just read what I wrote down, which is not a lot. I think it was cool how this one opened with a celebration the same way the other one, or the first one, opened with a celebration, the wedding. I thought it was a cool parallel because in the first one, it's the wedding and Vito is Godfather and Michael is talking with Diane Keaton. He's talking with her at the table and he's saying how he's never gonna become like his father. He's never gonna turn to crime. And spoiler alert, he ends up doing that. I think it's interesting how in the second one, it opens with the celebration, but instead, Michael is the Godfather that everyone's trying to score a meeting with. It's just a cool little contrast. I like it. And then I really love Frankie Pentangeli, Pentatonics. I don't know. I like Frankie. He's a cool character. He's funny. He kind of sounds like Watto from Phantom Menace if he was Italian.
Oh, Annie, make me some spaghetti, Annie. Annie, why don't you go make me some spaghetti? I will release your mother from slavery if you make me some spaghetti, Annie.
I also thought the scene where Michael kisses Fredo is his name, when he finds out that Fredo is the one who betrayed him, spoiler alert, and he gives him a big old smooch on the lips. At least that's what it looks like from the point of view you get. It looks like he just straight up kisses him on the lips for like a solid 10 seconds. It made me laugh.
Come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth. I'm feeling romantical.
Fredo, more like Frico. I also thought it was funny when Fanucci died. The way he fell on the floor was so funny. Robert De Niro shoots him once in the head and he kind of just stands there. And then he shoots him again and he's like, ah! I think this is actually that scene right here. I finished all the movies. What happens next? Am I a film bro now? I wouldn't really say so. If you follow me on Letterboxd, you probably already know that. The movie I watched before The Godfather Part II was Penguins of Madagascar, and I gave it a 3 stars. So in my book, Penguins of Madagascar is just barely worse than Godfather Part II. I'm just realizing, I really hope that there wasn't like straight up on the Wolf of Wall Street compilation I was playing, because I wasn't paying attention at all, so there could have just been like booties clapping behind me and I just was completely unaware. So I apologize if I subjected you to that. At the beginning of this video, I did a little ranking to kind of predict how I would rank these movies once I watched them all. And you can kind of tell based off the rankings that I gave each of them how I would re-rank them. Interstellar was at the top just as like a benchmark to see if any of these movies could surpass Interstellar. And I'm sorry, but none of these movies are better than Interstellar. Only one that comes kind of close, and it's not even really close, is Fight Club. Fight Club's at the top, and then obviously Taxi Driver all the way at the bottom, and then Godfather Part II goes underneath these. And then it just comes down to how I would rank Pulp Fiction, Godfather 1, and Wolf of Wall Street. I would put Godfather above all of these, actually, but I would rather rewatch Wolf of Wall Street and maybe Pulp Fiction over Godfather, but I do think Godfather's a better movie. And I feel like I would actually like it a little more on rewatch, less so with Pulp Fiction and Wolf of Wall Street. I would probably rather rewatch Taxi Driver over Citizen Kane 2. I do think I could appreciate a few more things and see it from a different angle, and I would rather watch it over Citizen Kane. But like I said, Citizen Kane is a better movie. I could see myself liking The Godfather Part 2 over these three movies here after rewatching it. But yeah, this is how I would re-rank the movies. Tell me why I'm wrong in the comments. Stay tuned, maybe I'll do a part 2 to this video if it gets enough love and you guys want me to watch more Film Bro movies, and I'll add those movies to this list and we can just see how they all rank against each other.
You guys know what time it is. It's about that time in the video where I go touch some grass, even though it's kind of gloomy and gross outside, and try to form a lesson out of thin air about a topic that doesn't really need a lesson, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I like to yap. So aside from just wanting to get more in touch with my film bro side, another main reason that I wanted to make this video was just to make the point, like what you like, because there's always gonna be someone out there to tell you why you have bad taste. Your favorite directors are Nolan, Tarantino, and Scorsese? What a film bro. You like some black and white obscure 1930s silent film? How pretentious. Everything Everywhere All at Once is your favorite movie? Bro thinks he's niche. It kind of feels like no matter what you like or you're into nowadays, there's gonna be somebody, especially online, to tell you that you're doing it wrong. And before I get into this whole rant, I just want to preface the whole thing with, I'm aware this is a very chronically online thing that I'm overanalyzing. Nobody in real life is like this. No one's gonna walk up to you in public and be like,
Interstellar's in your top 4? Yikes.
This is a very internet behavior type of thing. TikTok comments, Letterboxd people, Redditors. But after watching all of these film bro movies, I just wanted to make the point that most of them are popular for a reason. Even the ones I personally didn't love all that much, Taxi Driver, I was still able to come to an understanding of why they're so influential and respected. So I just wanted to make the point that not everybody who has Fight Club or Interstellar or Pulp Fiction as their favorite movies is some film bro, fake deep, wannabe cinephile trying to seem edgy or something. And not everybody who likes black and white 1930s silent films is trying to be intellectual either. I think a lot of people just struggle to understand how somebody could personally enjoy something that they personally find boring or inaccessible, so they just automatically assume that that person is faking it to seem smart or interesting. Which brings me to this new phenomenon that I've been noticing lately that I have coined performative authenticity. Just came up with that right now off the nog. It started out as this anti-performative pro-authenticity wave, which I think is a good thing, by the way. Authenticity is good, but I think the internet has become so hyper aware of performativeness now. Sorry, I'm going to use that word a lot, but it's got to the point where people are starting to overcorrect in the opposite direction. There's people now who think not being performative makes them superior in some roundabout way. I don't really know how to articulate it, but there'll be posts that are like, POV, the film bros talking about mise-en-scène, meanwhile your favorite movie is Lego Batman. Which, to be clear, I love Lego Batman. That movie rocks. It just starts to get kind of annoying when people treat that mainstream or basic taste like a quirky badge of honor or something. Like they deserve credit or praise for being more real or down to earth than other people. At that point, your authenticity has become performative. You're becoming the exact same pretentious person you were making fun of,
just with extra steps.
You've become the very thing you've sworn to destroy.
And that's what I find kind of interesting. It's what I've noticed recently on the internet. It's like it's making people so terrified of being seen as a film bro or performative or cringe or whatever the buzzword of the week is. So they start micromanaging their own taste and personality based off how they'll be perceived by other people. And this obviously applies to way more than just movies, music, humor, hobbies, interests, etc. People are so worried about being seen as performative now that authenticity becomes this aesthetic or trend to hop on or latch on to, which is so ironic because authenticity is the exact opposite of performing. You're just being you. You're not trying to do anything. And again, this is a very chronically online, non-issue type of thing. I think most people are normal, but I still think it's worth talking about a little bit because if you constantly let the internet dictate how you think about things or present yourself, what you're allowed to enjoy or what opinions are considered good or bad or cringe, you eventually just stop forming your own opinions altogether. And that's a very slippery slope that goes way beyond movies. But bringing it back to movies, just don't force yourself to love something just because it's a classic, and don't force yourself to hate things either just because they're mainstream MCU type movies just so you can seem interesting or unique. You can love The Godfather and Infinity War at the same time. That's allowed. That's an option that you can choose if you didn't know that. Just watch movies or wear that jacket or listen to that artist because you like them. Don't build your personality around being seen as cool or not being seen as cringe. Just don't trick yourself into liking things because they make you seem smarter, cooler, deeper, more unique, quirky, whatever. Just like what you like, brother. It's not that deep.